Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 57, and starting from the bottom of 56b. And the Gemara relates, there was a certain incident in Avodah, the very bottom line of 56b. There was a certain incident in Avodah in which a Jew and a Gentile trod on grapes and produced a certain wine together. And Shmuel delayed ruling on the matter for 3 festivals, as the sages gathered during the festivals and presented Shmuel with the opportunity to clarify the matter with them. The Gemara asks, what is the reason that Shmuel delayed his ruling? If we say that Shmuel delayed ruling on the matter because he thought to himself, and now we turn to 57a, top of the page. D'i mishkachach d'taidos Rabbi Nassan osrine afilu bano Titania medado ben biyad ben regal imacher Rabbi Nassan oimer biyad asur regal mutar. I should delay my ruling as if I find a Tana who prohibits the wine in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Natan. I will prohibit even deriving benefit from it. This is difficult. Rabbi Natan prohibits one from deriving benefit from wine that was touched by a Gentile, as it is taught in a Braita. If a Gentile measured a Jew's wine, whether he measured it with his hand or with his foot, it may be sold. Rabbi Natan says if he measured it with his hand, it's prohibited, but if he measured it with his foot, it's permitted. And a disclaimer, I'm just reading the Talmud. I'm not putting my own opinion to it. Next. Amar, the Amar Rabbi Nassan, Biyad Beregel Miyamar, Ella De'i Mashkachdam, Tana Desharei Rabbi Shimon, Eshreya Afidu Vishisiya. Gemara explains why the suggestion that Shmuel delayed his ruling because of the opinion of Rabbi Nassan. Natan is difficult. Say that Rabbi Natan said that the wine is forbidden when the Gentile measured it with his hand. Did he say that the wine is forbidden if he measured it with his foot? Rather, Shmuel delayed ruling on the matter because he thought to himself, if I find another Tana who permits the wine in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who holds that if a Gentile touches wine without intending to render it a libation, it is permitted, I will permit the wine even for drinking. Hahu Avodah dahu beveram dahu goy dahu kasalik bedikla v'aiti eluliba behade kanachis nega barshe deluliba. Bechamra shelo bekavana shar rav lezabone lagoyim. There was a certain incident in Biram that occurred as follows. There was a certain Gentile who was climbing a palm tree, and he brought down with him a palm branch. When he was descending from the tree, he unintentionally touched some wine with the tip of the palm branch. Rav permitted the owners to sell the wine to Gentiles. Amule Rav Kahana Rav Asirav Amar Huda Matinok Ben Yomo Hu Osiyai Nesech Amar Hu Emor Damri Ana Bishtia Behana Yamri. Rav Kahana Rabasi said to Rav, wasn't it you, master, who said, if a Gentile baby who is one day old touches wine, he renders it wine used for libation, even though he lacks any intent? Rav said to them, say that I said that the baby renders the wine prohibited for drinking. Did I say that it's prohibited to draw benefit from it? It is therefore permitted to sell the wine. Gufa Amarav Tinuk Ben Yomose Yainesech. The Gemara cites Rav's statement in order to discuss the matter for himself. Rav says if a gentle baby who is one day old touches wine, he renders it wine used for libation, even though he lacks any intent. Shemalu velo tavlu, v'chem b'nei shvachas shemalu v'tavlu, rukan umitrasan meshuk, tameh ve'amrinei zahu. Rav Shimon Bar Chia raised an objection to the statement of Rav. It writes up with regard to one who purchases from the Gentile slaves who have been circumcised but are not immersed in a ritual bath, and also with regard to the sons of the Gentile maidservants who grew up in a Jew's home and were circumcised but did not immerse in a ritual bath, their conversion is not yet valid. They have the legal status of Gentiles who transmit impurity like a Zav, a man who experiences a gonorrhea-like discharge. Their spittle and objects upon which they tread, even if they are found in the marketplace, are ritually impure, but some say they are ritually pure. Yenan. Gedoylim oisim yain esach ketanim ein oisim yain esach veilu hein. Gedoylim veilu hein ketanim gedol yoidim metiv avodah zarah misham shem. Ketanim einam yoidim metiv avodah zarah misham shem. The Brahta continues with regards to their wine. The adults render the wine that they touch, wine used for libation, but the minors do not render the wine that they touch, wine used for libation, in which slaves are considered adults, and which slaves are considered minors. The adults are those who know the nature of idol worship and its accessories, and the minors are those who do not know the nature of idol worship and its accessories. Katani nihas gedolim in katanim lo tarigma avne shvachos. In any event, the Brahta teaches that with regard to adults, yes, the wine they touch is rendered prohibited, but with regard to minors, no, the wine they touch is not rendered prohibited. This contradicts the statement of Rav. The Gemara replies, interpret the distinction between adults and minors as referring to the sons of maidservants. Since they are raised in a Jewish home, there is less reason for concern unless they render the wine an idolatrous libation. Therefore, the sages did not prohibit wine touched by minors. This distinction does not apply in the case of slaves that were purchased from Gentiles. The Gemara asks, doesn't the Brahta say Allah applies to slaves purchased from Gentiles and also to the sons of Gentile maidservants, indicating that there is no differentiation between them? The Gemara replies, the Brahta equates the two cases only with regard to the impurity of their spittle and of the objects upon which they tread. The Gemara asks, this works out well according to the one who says that their spittle and the objects upon which they tread are impure. But according to the one who says that they're pure, what can be said? If the spittle of the slaves and the objects upon which they tread are pure, clearly the halacha is the same in the case of the sons of maidservants, and it is unnecessary to state this. One may therefore conclude that the Brahta equated the two cases with regard to the status of the wine that they touch. Hakamash Malan, Navodim Dumya, Bnei Shvachas Malu, Velo Tavlu, who da Isinyain Esach Malu Tavlu, La Af Avadim Kain. Okay, little breakage. Starting back from Hanicha. The Gemara asks, this works out well according to the one who says that their spittle and objects upon which they tread are impure, but according to the one who says they are pure, what can be said? If the spittle of the slaves and the objects upon which they tread are pure, clearly the halacha is the same in the case of the sons of maidservants, and it is unnecessary to state this. One may therefore conclude the Brahta equated the two cases with regard to the status of the wine that they touch. Hakamash Milan. Avodim dumi bnei shvachos malu velo tavlu hu deosinyen yasach malu v'tavlu la avodim came. The Gemara replies, even if the Brahta is equated in two cases with regard to the status of the wine that they touch, it is not equating them with regard to the distinction between adults and minors. Rather, this teaches us that the halacha with regard to slaves is similar to the halacha with regard to the sons of maidservants, just as in the case of the sons of maidservants. It is only those who are circumcised but did not immerse who render the wine that they touch wine used for a libation. But those who are circumcised and immersed do not, so too in the case of slaves. Once they have immersed in a ritual bath, they do not render wine prohibited. Dafuke midarab Nachman Amar Shmuel. The Amar Nachman Amar Shmuel hakach avadim minagoyim. Afal pishel malu v'tavlu oisinye nesach ad shetishka avodah zarah mipihem. Kamash milan delo. The halacha is for the exclusion of that which Rav Nachman says, that Shmuel says, as Rav says, Shmuel says, in the case of one who purchases slaves from the Gentiles, even though the slaves were circumcised and immersed in a ritual bath, they still render the wine that they touch wine used for libation, as they are accustomed to idolatrous practices until reference to idol worship disappears from their mouths. The Brisa teaches us that their wine is not prohibited. Gufa. Amar Nachman Shmuel Keach Avodim Minagoyim. Afal Pishim Al-Tavlu Oisni Nesach Azishishka V'Zal Mipihem. V'Kama Amar B'Shuva Levi Ad Shneim Chodesh. The Gemara cites the aforementioned statement in order to discuss the matter itself. Nachman says that Shmuel says, in the case of one who purchases slaves from the Gentiles, even though the slaves were circumcised and immersed in a ritual bath, they still render the wine that they touch wine used for libation, as they are accustomed to idolatrous practices until reference to idol worship disappears from their mouths. How much time does it take, Rabbi Yehoshua says, one does not assume that the slave has forgotten his idolatrous worship until at least 12 months have passed. Anyway, Rabbi Nachman, halokech avodim minagoyim shemalon l'tavlu. Rabba raised an objection to Rav Nachman from the aforementioned Braita with regard to one who purchases from the Gentiles slaves who have been circumcised but have not yet immersed in a ritual bath. And although with regard to the sons of the Gentile maidservants who grew up in a Jew's home and were circumcised but did not immerse in a ritual bath, their conversion is not valid, and they have the right legal status of Gentiles, their spittle and objects upon which they tread. Now turning to 57b. Mishuk tameh v'amilah toin. Yenan gedolim yoisin yenesach, ketanim yoisin yenesach. Elu henan gedolim, elu hen ketanim. Gedolim shioidim b'tiv avodah zarah u'misham shera. Even if they are found in the marketplace, are ritually impure. But if some say that they are ritually pure, with regard to their wine, the adults render the wine that they touch wine used for a libation, but the minors do not render the wine and they touch wine used for a libation. Which slaves are considered adults and which slaves are considered minors? The adults are those who know the nature of idol worship and its accessories, and the minors are those who do not know the nature of idol worship and its accessories. Ketani mihas malu v'latavlu in malu v'tavlu la tarigma avresh b'achayis. In any event, the Braita teaches that with regard to those slaves who were circumcised but did not immerse, yes, the wine they touch is prohibited. But with regard to those who were circumcised and immersed, no, the wine they touch is not prohibited, even if they have not yet forgotten their idolatrous worship. The Gemara replies, interpret this halacha as referring only to the sons of maidservants who were raised in a Jewish home and never engaged in idolatrous worship. Idolatrous worship. And not just slaves who were acquired from Gentiles. Second here, put some pause. The Gemara asks, doesn't the Braita teach that the halacha applies to slaves purchased from Gentiles and also to the sons of Gentile maidservants, indicating that there is no differentiation between them? The Gemara replies that the Braita equates the two cases only with regard to the impurity of their spittle and of the objects upon which they tread. The Gemara asks, this works out well according to the one who says that their spittle and the objects upon which they tread are impure, but according to the one who says that they are pure, what can be said if the spittle of the slaves and the objects upon which they tread are pure? Clearly, the same halacha applies in the case of sons of maidservants, and it is unnecessary to state this. May one therefore conclude that the right equated the two cases with regard to the status of the wine they touch? The Gemara answers, even the bride that equates the slaves and the sons of maidservants with regard to the status of their wine, it is not intended to compare their status once they have immersed. Rather, this teaches us that the halacha with regard to slaves is similar to the halacha with regard to the sons of maidservants. Just as in the case of the sons of maidservants, it is only the adults who render the wine that they touch, wine used for libation, but the minors do not render the wine they touch, used for a libation. So too, in the case of slaves, the adults render the wine that they touch, wine used for libation, but minors do not render the wine they touch, wine used for a libation. The halacha is the exclusion of that which Rav says. As Rav says, if a Gentile baby who is 1 day old touches wine, he renders it wine used for libation. The Braita teaches us that this is not the case. The Gemara relates there was a certain incident in Mechoza in which a Gentile came and entered the store of a Jew. The Gentile said to the owners, "Do you have any wine to sell?" They said to him, "No." There was wine sitting in a bucket. The Gentile put his hand in it and stirred the wine around. The Gentile said to them, "This is not wine." The other person, meaning the store owner, took the bucket and in anger threw its contents into a barrel of wine. Shari Rav Goyim Ibligala Ravuna Barchinina Ravuna Breder Nachman Nafki Shipuri Rav Visharu Nafki Shipuri Ravuna Barchinina Ravuna Bar Nachman Asri. The Gemara, the incident raised a dilemma with regard to the status of the wine in the barrel. Rava permitted the owner to sell the wine to Gentiles, as he held that it is permitted to derive benefit from that wine. Rav Huna bar Hinana and Rav Huna, son of Rav Nachman, disagreed with him. Blasts of shofar went out from the court of Rava, promulgating his ruling, and they permitted the sale. And blasts of shofar went out from the court of Rav Huna bar Hinana and Rav Huna, son of Nachman, promulgating their ruling, and they prohibited the sale.